This episode of Coscast is brought to you by Hero Hair, the real wig experience.
You don't find past milestones in your life and remember when you thought you'd feel different and realize that once you pass that milestone, you don't feel different. When you're 16 thinking like, oh man, what's it going to be like to be 18 or 21? You can't imagine beyond 30.
Hello and welcome to Coscast, episode 3 of season 2. I'm William, also known as WhiteFangCosplay, and with me I have...
Alex, also known as StrictlyCosplay.
Natasha as PashaCosplay.
PashaCosplay?
PaxtaGraham, also PaxtaGraham.
And usually what I do is that when we have someone on for the first time, I just let you guys introduce yourselves real quickly. So why don't you guys tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm a cosplayer. Been cosplaying for almost 2 years now. It's pretty much what I do now.
What's some of your highlight cosplays? What are you most known for?
My Death Guard and my Zaya. Very well.
I support and protect.
He protect.
Yep, best boy.
I reattach things when they fall off and pull her to the side when there's 3 people that want to stop and take pictures.
But he also makes amazing bathroom floors and kitchens, so if you need tile work.
Yeah, let's make this about me and Tile.
That's what everyone's here for.
Yeah, that'd be great.
This should be renamed Tilecast. Oh, man. Good thing you mentioned the Death Guard because we recently just put up a preview of your Death Guard cosplay music video. So check out the preview, but then of course follow up by checking out her Patreon because she's got that
Full
going.
video on Patreon.
Yeah,
So cool.
not to brag, just because I made it, but it's a pretty awesome video.
It's one
just
of my
saying.
favorites so far, yes.
The ice. We shot it in the ice castles. If you need a reason to watch it.
But you also shot my Zaya.
It's
which
true.
was my very first cosplay. So
yeah,
you got my very first cosplay, then you got my favorite cosplay. So
ooh. Yeah, and that was fun.
You showed us that castle spot.
Yeah, because I told us look, I've got some castle ruins to take you guys. It was awesome.
Why didn't you tell me about Castle Spot?
We had a Ruby group photo shoot there a long time ago.
I wasn't there.
No, I know you weren't, but you were invited. So
yeah, that's true.
you were.
I need to go now. I need to do more
do
photo
you guys
shoots
have a
with
cinder?
A cinder?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think
Yes. Jake.
that's true, but I don't think we've gotten. I still need to get pictures with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely. That's been something I've been wanting to do is a cinder cosplay.
You should
version?
absolutely do it. Join the Ruby fam. It's a fun community. It really is.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, we watched all of it.
Oh God, we watched all of it. It's
Volume 6, so
So
good. No
good.
spoilers here, but watch.
Because
it.
we've already
Yeah.
done spoilers about
It's
it.
true.
in
If you
another
want to hear
episode.
spoilers for Ruby, we have a spoiler cast on our other podcast, Inconceivable. So make sure you check out that. Also, if you're listening, we also have this up in video form on YouTube. So if you want to see the video, especially as we have some more visual aspects coming up in the later half of this episode, feel free to check out our channel, Geek Kind, on YouTube. Or you can just go to our website, geekkind.tv. So let's just get right into it. We are going to open up with kind of like a more or less controversial thing that's really happened and impacted the community. We are a little bit on the tail end of talking about it, but I actually did that on purpose because I wanted to make sure that all the information was out there and that there wasn't any misinformation being spread and that everyone got to say their piece, and so we could actually come to a good conclusion on this because it's a pretty big deal. So, as most of you know, Vic Mignogna has come under fire after being accused of sexually harassing people at cons in general for about 10 years. And there has been people who has been talking about this on and off since in that 10-year period, but all of a sudden this came to head when both Rooster Teeth followed by Funimation decided to suspend any future contracts with Vic for any voice acting gigs. And I should so if you don't know who Vic is, he is a voice actor who does a lot of dubs for very, very popular characters. He does for instance, he does both Alphonse and no.
Does he? I don't think he does Alphonse. He might, but
No.
he does Edward Elric.
Edward, yeah, because I wasn't sure if he did both or just one.
No.
But yeah, that's one of his biggest roles there. obviously like one of his biggest ties to Funimation there. And he's done, obviously, with mentioning Rooster Teeth, he's done Crow from RWBY, who's a very popular character from that show. He's been with them since season 2 or 3.
3.
Yeah.
So
So it's been a good like 3-year relationship around there.
something like that.
But yeah, people love the character, and he's done so many beloved characters. And first off, I'd like to say that I am just very disappointed because someone who does play the voice of so many characters that you love and is really present in conventions, and interacting with fans, that's an awesome thing to see, And a lot of people at least used to respect Vic for his work. But this is something that, long story short, could have been prevented and could have been changed very easily. And this, I think this has been going on for way too long. The fact that it's been going on for 10 years and he's never had a second thought to change it. And then for me, and this is one of the reasons why you wait, is that I waited to hear his response. And his response that he was all emotional and upset, saying he's quote unquote sorry that he didn't realize it was okay to hug fans and things like that, and never mentioned the real sexual harassment that he did. And I think that's really disgraceful, to not even own up to what everybody knows at this point that you've been doing. Yeah. So dodging that in his real whole apology was really, to me, just really disappointing overall. What was your first reactions when hearing the news?
Well, I'd heard a couple of mentions of that about how he had treated some cosplayers or some friends of ours, and I was like, okay, that's a little creepy, but I didn't think that much of it. I still saw him as a pretty cool guy. I was pretty impressed with a lot of the work that he's done. But when this all came to a head, I was kind of like you. I felt like I was really disappointed, and I felt like you said, he could have listened to the complaints that people have made and then be like, oh, I should probably fix this. But it just seemed like it was such a dumb thing to consistently do over and over again. Because I get that he says that he's a very open and friendly person, and that he came from a family that was very
like that.
Yeah, not everybody was like that, and it's especially with the day and age that we live in now, and in cosplay communities, people are very, very sensitive to that stuff, and there's a lot of people who will take advantage of that sort of situation. And I don't know if he was intentionally taking advantage of his position as a voice actor and as somebody who was really famous, so that he could, do things that weren't exactly things that people would usually frown upon.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I just think that it was such a stupid mistake on his part, and I don't know if it was malicious in any way. I certainly hope not, because I hope that, it's nice to think the best of him.
Yeah, exactly. If there's any
Yeah.
redeeming factor, that hopefully there wasn't a super malicious thing behind it, but it still doesn't make the situation any better,
I mean,
don't know. It could have been corrected.
Yeah.
That's the
I think-
point.
Coming from a very open family, I also consider that Vic would probably be a more sensitive person. He seems like a pretty sensitive person, so I think that he should have been able to read on the tenseness that somebody would feel if he did a certain thing.
Yeah.
Just
The body language.
Yeah, exactly.
Just oh, you're gonna kiss me? What?
Yeah.
Yeah, you usually tense up during that, or you just you get into this frozen look of I feel so uncomfortable now. You don't you don't feel very happy. You're like, oh my goodness, this is great.
When this came out, one of our close friends who's a cosplayer came out to us and said that she had photo proof of something that happened over 4 years ago, back when she was 14, and it's these two pictures. You see one where they are hugging, and then in the next one it's all nice, and then the next one she is being kissed by Vic on the cheek, and her face is just
I know.
so
you can see the
uncomfortable.
intensity of her eyes just saying help me. So,
Yeah, and then
it's-
her wig was even being pulled back too. It was a
you
very
just don't-
firm
Well, first of all, you don't touch someone's face after they've done makeup and they're in their cosplay.
Also true.
Don't do that. Just don't do that. And it's just common practice to just not kiss people that you don't know, that you're not comfortable with. And
as someone who's in the professional career of doing voice acting, no matter what your upbringing is, you should learn from your workplace that that's not acceptable. You know, it's
common human practice of respecting people. And...
I mean, usually I don't think that you should touch anybody's face unless you're very close to them, let alone kiss them. So
that's a certain boundary that that's that needs extra permission to cross.
Yeah,
it's not
you
a
gotta
given.
be very good friends with a lot of people, and you also have to know where the person's boundaries are too.
Right.
So yeah,
even if you list off the typical excuses of
he's famous.
maybe they're maybe that's how they are in their family, or if it's somebody else and you say, oh, they're foreign and that's their sensibilities or something. Yeah, there's typically nobody I've met, because we all have either that friend or family member that is the most touchy and interactive with you. Every time you see them, you're going to get a hug, and it's going to be very intimate. It's still not that intrusive. It's still not that obviously intrusive as his interactions with people look. The people look uncomfortable. They freeze up, they back off, or they'll grasp on out of fear. Because, I'm sure there's some people that were genuinely like, oh, I'm excited too, and they don't know what to do. And I agree. I don't see any malicious intent. I think it's just we act the way that we're encouraged to, permitted to act. If you've been rewarded in your life for, lying or behaving inappropriately, then you're going to continue to be conditioned to be that way. So if he's just always been that way, and nobody with power that he would respect firmly stopped him and went, this is inappropriate, you're upsetting people. But nobody wants to do that, because none of us want to be the ones that make that wave, because then you get death threats.
Right. Well, then also it's hard for someone like him. I think that he does have a little ego. I don't think a lot of ego, but I definitely, especially when I mentioned his apology, I think in that was some of his ego showing that he didn't think he was doing anything wrong. Come on, man. Think about other people for a second. And I think that when you have that little bit of ego, the amount of people that you respect to have someone give you that advice and actually take it to heart is probably really, really slim.
Yeah, you don't hear them.
Yeah.
And going back to what you said about growing up in a situation where you're much more open with your family or friends, or coming from a different a different society. I lived in Norway for a little while because my mom's Norwegian, so we're very friendly with everyone. We give our family kisses on the cheek all the time, that sort of thing. Then we moved over to America, and I had my cousins, and I was like, oh, I'll give them a kiss on the cheek, and then it turns out, oh, that was really uncomfortable for them. I'm like, oh, I guess I'll just stick to my immediate family then, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
so
how hard is that?
I was 7 or 8 years old when I did that. I learned it. You can do it too, Vic.
Exactly. So something that that I want to make clear is that a lot of people haven't exactly been in favor of criticizing Vic for this. A lot of people are saying they've been demanding evidence. Where's the proof? A lot of people have been saying that this is some sort of a witch hunt on Vic for whatever reason that you want to give. And a couple opposing points that I would like to make to that is that I think that the time for this is very poor, because right now we have a couple situations that have been going on this past year with James Gunn, with Kevin Hart, and with Liam Neeson about severe mistakes that they've made at one point in their life, and they've been really criticized for it. Now, I want to make this clear that this is not one of those cases, because what these don't have in common is that with those other 3 celebrities, those things that have, one, happened a long time ago, at the very least, happened 4 years ago. In James Gunn case, Kevin Hart was 8, Liam Neeson it was 40. And have been profusely apologized for it, and beyond apologized, it has been rectified and changed.
It's also not a pattern of behavior.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was a contained instance. It was changed, and it was apologized for. You literally can't ask for more. The person said sorry more than enough times. The person changed and learned from it, and is better now for it. That's how humans work. We make mistakes and we learn from those mistakes. But the important part of those cases is that 1, they were contained, and 2, they have been since rectified. Vic Mignogna, this situation has been going on starting from 10 years ago, but up till today. Even after this situation comes out, I'm not convinced based off of what I've seen that he has had a change of heart. I think that he's playing the victim card and feeling like he's being unfairly attacked. And the one point that I can see is that technically he hasn't done anything super illegal, unlike the other people who have done some very more serious stuff. But the difference is that those things are still obviously not okay, especially at cons where we have a very strong message about asking permission to do things and respecting people's boundaries. It is, consent.
They literally have signs for it at the con.
Yeah,
Cosplay
it
is
is
not
not
consent.
consent.
It is such a big theme within, if you're going to do this in any community, you've chosen the worst one to do it, because I can't think of another community that has a strong message like this for that kind of situation.
And it's not even just cosplayers, it's just humans in general.
Yeah.
You know, it's...
I say mostly cosplayers because those are the people that I know.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
as far as people saying that, where's the proof? I've seen multiple first-hand reports. I've seen pictures. I've seen more than enough evidence. This is something that before this whole thing happened, I had been aware of, and I had already been debating about whether I should put Vic on a pedestal or not as a mentor to look up to, because I've been hearing some shaky stories about him. And then a few months later, this comes out, and it's like, well, I guess that kind of settles it then, you know? And I don't criticize at all the companies that have chosen not to continue working with him at all. I think it was the right move. I think that I don't want to. I didn't find this out completely. I want to say Rooster Teeth was the first one to speak out about this, and I am grateful that they were so bold to do that, because that's a big statement. But I think that they definitely made the right choice, and other companies, much bigger companies, followed as well.
Yeah.
And like I said from the beginning, it's disappointing because you're right. It wasn't that severe of a thing, but it's almost because it wasn't so severe, it was so easy to change. He literally, like you said, it took one day for you to figure out, oh, that wasn't the best move to do. I'm going to stop doing that.
And that was my cousin too,
Yeah.
so I was related to them.
So
As a
easy.
child.
Yeah, as a child too. As an adult.
I mean, I also think my parents probably told me something like that, or my cousin tensed up or something. I don't remember exactly, but I remember that happening and being like, oh, okay, well, I can't really go up to everyone and just be like, hey, I'm going to get touchy-feely with you, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No?
You can't tell me that in this past 10 years, especially with all the stuff that's been going on these past few years, that thought hasn't crossed your mind, saying that, hey, maybe this is a little inappropriate. Maybe I should pull back. You can't tell me that thought didn't cross your head once. And if it didn't, then you're a super, super dense person that had it coming. So
Yeah, literally. You're just asking for it.
Well, didn't he also have a fair amount of people that he would go to cons with as well? Other people who are with him, other voice actors, other people who are coordinating his schedules, that sort of thing, or a public person. What are they called exactly? A public person
PR
who.
person.
A PR person, yeah, someone like that who could look at it and also have input that straight to Vic, just be like, hey, not the best idea, you know?
Yeah.
Somebody else could have told him that, who was close to him, not just
and frankly,
the
maybe they
people who
have,
have.
and we just don't know. You know, it's
there's a lot that we're missing out of the whole story.
Right.
So it's
when it's over this long of a period of a time, you know, there's a lot of information and stuff to go through, especially when a lot of, accounts could have been, from a longer time ago, but I definitely heard stories as soon as this past year and as early as 10 years ago. And I think that time spans is absolutely unacceptable. I think he's had so many chances to change, that to think that this is him not getting a chance to change this whole, him losing his jobs and stuff like that, that's ridiculous. He's had several times available when he can change and basically have no consequences from it. A simple heartfelt video that says, hey, over the past years I've been doing some inappropriate actions and I've come to my senses and realized how wrong those things were, and I'm going to work at being better at that, and follow that apology up with actually being better. Because that's the important thing. You got to follow up those words with your actions. And that could have been done a million times over. And he didn't even attempt to do it once. He never once mentioned it. He never once was criticized for it officially, on a job stance until now.
I think the first official report was 2012 or something,
Yeah.
And that's just when somebody actually like went to HR and filed.
Right. Yeah. Some of this one
So
was
not
filed.
all of the people who just didn't want to make waves and felt uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I think we're not going to get much intervention from managers, agents, PR people, because to a large extent they're more what's a nice way of saying leeches or vampires? They're people who are living off of his continued success.
Yeah.
So they're not trying to upset him or
Exactly.
make problems either. They're just, if they see it affecting his income, then they'll care. But otherwise, they want him to be happy. And if I can add one other thing, saying that him losing his job is a disproportionate reaction, I think is unreasonable, because what we're seeing is the natural progression of the way that these things should be responded to. Of course, there was much more, heinous, obvious infractions with everybody else who has been called out as being inappropriate and abusive. And his is very much just like you make people uncomfortable, you're a little too intrusive, you have this predatory intimacy, and you refuse to let people create their own boundaries.
Yeah.
However, if that series of bad behavior isn't changed, he shouldn't continue to be rewarded for that. There's so many good, talented people who haven't hurt or upset or made anybody uncomfortable, and don't reward him for this. Clear him out of the way and let other people in.
Absolutely.
And honestly, it's also really heartbreaking too, because I know for a fact that he's really come into a lot of people's lives and changed them for the better. Like, he's helped a lot of people. He's been very. It's hard because I know that he's been a very loving person to a lot of fans, and being very encouraging and helping them and trying to, get them to do better for themselves. But at the same time, he's messing up this much, and it's just it's really painful to see someone who is so loved doing something so
Heinous.
yeah, so
Just
it's
sketchy
stupid.
and-
Yeah, uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
why would you do that? You're better than that. Sort of I feel like everyone is able to be better, honestly. But seeing someone who's done a lot of good messing up like that, and knowing that there's going to be consequences like that, you definitely want to call somebody out like that.
Well, then you're also talking about separating the artist from the art.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think you can, but at a certain point you shouldn't. You should stop rewarding them.
Yeah.
If you can enjoy, Full Metal or Ruby without supporting him, but R. Kelly, stop buying his records. There's
Right.
new.
I don't think, you shouldn't criticize, the stuff he's been a part of, because that's totally unfair.
Yeah, because there's a lot of other people there that are being supported by that IP existing.
Yeah, when
So-
it comes down to it, he's just a very small part of a very large team that makes that happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I think a good way to close this off, which is this could go either way, and it's really opinion based. Do you think that Vic deserves a chance to fix everything and have a chance to come back into the voice actor space?
You guys want to go first?
Sure, I'm good. I think that he should have to do more work than everybody else who hasn't done anything wrong and who has talent and is ready to work as a voice actor. He should go out of his way to demonstrate his growth and repentance and have it actually register genuinely with us that it feels real. Like, his apology was completely passively blaming everybody
so
else and saying, pretending that all he was doing was giving out love, and he didn't realize that people decided that made them feel uncomfortable, and making their own experience of discomfort and victimhood their own fault.
Yeah.
And nothing that was truly connected to him, where he just wanted to, give out love and connect with people, and he didn't realize they chose to feel uncomfortable by that. And not the exact words. I'm blowing it up on a macro scale so it's easier to see the nuance of what registers with you subconsciously while you're listening to him apologize.
Yeah, because like I said, he doesn't have a huge ego personality, but in that video, I feel like it was showing very prominently to just how full of himself he was, to where he didn't think that this was an issue to deal with him. It's like, I'm sorry that this is how you guys felt.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally, it was just he was more the victim.
Yeah.
And we can give credence to the gray area of an ego being created by fame, because he didn't he didn't decide to be that egotistical. He is given fame and adoration and attention, and that will screw with your head. So there's multiple parts going on there, but anyway.
Big same.
You see?
Big same.
I'd say when it comes to like second chances, like I think second chances isn't like something that you give to someone. It's like, oh, they deserve to be forgiven or something like that. Like that's given through grace, basically. And it's like if the community sees him and then decides, like, you know what, like if he's like really trying to change, like you said, like he's trying to like better himself and realize like, oh yeah, I did mess up. I need to do better. I think like grace through the fans who are like, all right, I think you can. I think we've seen that you've done something to better yourself, and we want you back. Sort of. We want like the good part of you, and just leave the crappy part behind. Sort of.
Earn it, don't demand it.
Yeah. Literally.
I think two things that would help his case. I don't know if he'll ever get to a point where he can change his fate, but I think that two things that can, in addition to what you said, can help is one, I think that he should become an advocate for the wrongdoings that he's done and kind of try and flip the script. It's like, hey, as someone who was abusing like my celebrity status and someone who was crossing boundaries, I want to be an advocate for people to speak against people who were doing what I was doing, and just really be a big voice in what it means for consent and all these things.
Yep.
And then in addition to that, which is the most important thing, I think, is time. I think that this is not something that he can fix tomorrow, this year. I would say 5 years, honestly, is what I'm picturing as far as consistent data of you being a changed person. Because when we're talking of experiences of over a span of 10 years, that's going to take a long time to undo, and I think 5 years in a way, unless if he goes like crazy with it, I think 5 years of what I could expect him to do would be giving him a little extra credit. I think at minimum 5 years, Yeah,
nothing genuine happens instantly.
No, it always takes time for stuff to heal, basically.
Yeah. For sure.
And also, don't be hyper public about you apologizing and being an advocate,
Yep.
because then it's like, okay, you're obvious. This is a performance.
Yeah,
You're trying to get on the side of somebody else, not
Exactly.
like genuinely trying to show them.
I am
hey.
an advocate now. It's like, no, just go do the work and let us
don't-
notice.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Because people will be watching him for a while after this.
Yes.
Yeah. So, well, yeah. Which I'm not sure if he enjoys or not at this point, to be honest. I'm not sure if he still enjoys the attention or now he just wants everybody to go away.
Yeah,
So,
the complicated poison kiss of fame.
yeah.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it, though, I really do want him to rectify everything. I am deeply, deeply disappointed, and it's I've had no joy in investigating all this, especially as he, in my opinion, is one of the most talented American voice actors that we have. To see him going down this path is disappointing to say the least. It's extremely upsetting. I would love to see him be a better person for it and be an example to other people, so other people don't, for some reason, decide that this is something that can be repeated. I think that Vic can. It would be really cool if he flipped the script and made an example of himself. So instead of trying to call other people out, start calling yourself out. But yeah. That's really all I've got to say about it. It's a hard thing to talk about, and one of the reasons why it took a long time to talk about it is because I wanted to make sure that as much as I could, I was giving him the benefit of the doubt, which is really not a lot. There's really not much benefit of the doubt to give him at this point. More just to just the aftermath of it, of like path to recovery.
Yes.
Because I'm definitely not approving or putting down any of the things that he's done. Those have been acknowledged in full force, and I don't think right now he deserves to be put back in any sort of voice acting career as it stands.
Yep.
So
Agreed.
yeah. Hero Hair creates high-definition quality feature film-grade lace-front custom cosplay wigs, facial hair applications, and hairpiece applications directly from the cosplayer's inspired imagination. This includes full, screen-accurate reproduction pieces down to the last discernible detail. These one-of-a-kind custom pieces are created by hand specifically to the head shape, facial structure, and scalp typography of the client in order to elevate the client's wig to match the quality of the cosplay build itself and complete the transformative illusion of cosplay. Our company was founded and is run by established entertainment industry wig masters and hair artisans, all currently working at the top levels of their fields. With wig and hair credits spanning feature film, television, and theater, these elite professionals bring with them a combined total of more than 100 years of experience in creating one of the most complex and often misunderstood aspects of cosplay, and the transformative illusion, the wig, and the literal, figurative crown of cosplay. We would also like to take a moment to recognize our Hero Hair client of the month. This month we have Captain Cody Cosplay. In his relatively short time on the national circuit, through his complete transformations into characters ranging from Jamie Heineman from Mythbusters to all movie versions of Ace Ventura. You may have saw him at Katsucon 2019 in some viral videos and pictures across all social media platforms and landing on the front page of Reddit. He has even managed to carve out a flourishing career and a level of true respect in the cosplay arts, likely for many years to come. Masterfully creating virtually every part of his costume builds by hand, and with his biggest supporters, his wife Jocelyn and his parents, especially his mom, who travels to support his appearances at cons across the country, Cody is also an incredibly positive force in the outside non-fandom community.
Without
Not
showing
actually
any
watching
vision.
it.
So like I'm saying, like
Continuing
they
his
go
family
all out
long
with the
line
sound
tradition
effects. They
as
go all out
firefighters.
with the music. They have an
Cody
actual
said himself,
cast of like
"My grandfather
real
was an
voice
ex-fire
actors
chief
doing
at
all
the
these
longest member of the
characters,
West
and
Islip Fire
with
Department
the
in New York, Vanguard Engine Company. 63 years of service and built one of their first trucks, the 1929 Pumper, as well as joined the Navy building F-14s for World War II. He worked on an LM, lunar module, for the moon landing, Apollo 11, and he was also a championship boxer and stock car driver / builder. I like to brag about him, and now I'm a candidate for the Henrico Fire Department in Virginia, still in the application process. My written test is tomorrow morning, and these are the reasons my grandfather is my greatest hero and will always be. Thanks for sharing that experience with us, and be sure to check out Captain Cody Cosplay on Instagram or on any other social platforms where you find cosplayers. And thank you again to Hero Hair for sponsoring this episode of Coscast. Now, take a quick moment to talk about a fun tip for cosplay, which in this is going to be in the form of a product recommendation. Knowingly, the sticker is kind of covering the label here, but this is a thing called frog juice, and this was recommended to me. But yeah, that's what it's called, frog juice.
Nani?
I did not
Can I see
mispronounce it.
that?
Yeah,
Nani?
it was referred to me by a person who goes by Spectra. And he is really amazing at armor builds, and one of the things that he's done is an Aquaman cosplay that was completely waterproof. What frog juice is it's a sealant that you would use in place of like your normal clear coat type stuff. And to use it, all you need to do is after your whole thing is done, you spray it down. You only really need one coat. And what's important to know is that you let it like almost cure for like a day or two in like a nice room temperature environment. Making sure that's not like being packed away or anything like that. Let it breathe for a few days. And after that, this thing will not only add a nice like satin shine to your stuff, it will also protect your cosplays. It is flexible and it is waterproof. Like I said, Spectra has used this for his Aquaman cosplay, which he was taking to Colosscon East, and fully submerged it, no problems, which is really impressive when it comes to foam. It's also nice to use because then if you were to spray it on the inside, it could also protect from things like sweat and things like that, because that does happen, as disgusting as that is.
Yeah, it does.
So,
It does, especially your bracers.
yeah.
Always the bracers.
Cosfunk.
But yeah, it's especially useful. I've used it on a few pieces. I actually used it on my my present mic box, which was useful when I debuted at Katsucon last year, because when I wore it and I walked from my hotel across the street to the Gaylord, it was like raining. And I know it worked really well because I sprayed all the foam bits of my cosplay. I didn't spray the speaker. And at one point when I came in, I accidentally like brushed my speaker and I like literally just wiped the paint straight off. Like the water just took it right off. But on all the rest of the mic box, spotless. Rain didn't affect it whatsoever. Nice. I was like, wow, it really does work. So that was like, I had a nice first-hand experience of how well that does work. But yeah, definitely make sure that you let it cure afterwards, because if you don't, something that I find is that they can kind of stick together if you have multiple pieces, or just stick to anything in general. So you need to make sure let it set. But once it does set, it is like really protected against the elements and just in general wear and tear. So very helpful. You can find this online at a place called like the Sign Warehouse. If you literally Google frog juice, you'll find the place you can order it from online. You can't find this on Amazon. You can't find this in like some cosplay repair place. You can only find it at this one specific Sign Warehouse because it's actually used for outdoor signs and paintings as like a clear coat for those. So yeah. But yeah, cosplay tip / recommendation for you. Try out that stuff, especially if you're big into armor, like yourself.
I'm gonna try this out.
Too.
Yeah, and it's not that expensive. If I remember correctly, it was like $8 a can, so it wasn't that expensive.
Yeah,
and it like I said, you only need one coat, and it lasts for a long time. I got 2 of them like a couple years ago, and I still haven't even gone through my first can. So like once you get one, it lasts you for at least a whole year, depending on how much you're spraying. But yeah, so check that out.
I'm gonna challenge that.
Yeah, take it to the limits.
I usually hope for the best when it comes to the elements against my armor. I'm just like run really fast or just have a trash bag or something.
Well, what do you usually spray to finish?
I don't really spray to finish.
What?
I just leave it like that. Yeah, I don't.
Shame
I don't
on
go
you.
through that. I'm
always
just
do
like,
a fresh
plasti
spray.
dip and then spray paint or whatever, and then I usually think I'm okay, but apparently I'm not. So, my bad. I guess it's a good reason for me to use frog juice, eh?
Yeah.
What's that name again?
Frog juice.
Frog juice. I'll have to look that out. Frog juice. You're welcome.
Say
Hashtag
one more time.
Hashtag frog juice.
Actually, not sponsored this segment, but highly recommend
Maybe
it.
we'll see.
I don't doubt they don't even. I don't even know if they're aware that cosplayers use their product. Maybe, who knows? It's a pretty like even for cosplayers, a lot of cosplayers don't know about it. So yeah.
I didn't know about it.
So
I don't
far.
know about stealing my armor, so yeah.
You're
Hey,
welcome.
I
That's
learn
what we're
something
here
every
for.
day.
Yeah. So from here, we're going to go into our main topic, which, if you couldn't tell by the title, we're talking about people who are quote unquote cos-famous. And I say quote unquote because it's a very relative term, and that's part of what we're going to be discussing is what that actually means as someone who may or may not be labeled cos-famous, and what is the lifestyle of that cosplayer, what's the behind the scenes, and as something that a lot of people are striving to be, is it something that people should be striving to be? As we hope to inform people of what that lifestyle actually looks like. So we at Katsucon, we interviewed a few cosplayers who have a considerable amount of following online. Cosplayers such as Mangaloo from Labanak and Mangaloo Cosplays, Full Health Cosplay, and Starsplat. And we have the whole interviews, the interviews in their entirety coming up after this episode is released. But we have a couple like intro clips from their interviews to show you now.
I wouldn't necessarily say it was a goal. Like, to be honest with you, like, when I first started, like, my definition for cos fame has changed dramatically, like, throughout the years. Because at first, but when I first started, like, I thought that to be famous, you had to have, like, 1,000 followers.
Right.
But then I hit, like, 1,000 followers, and I'm like, I don't feel famous. And now I'm sitting at, like, 22,000 followers, and I still don't feel famous. I'm like, well, maybe if I get 30,000, I'll be famous. And I was like, But, like, it's more so, like, about my community. Like, that's what's important to me. Like, I don't care if I have, like, 100,000 followers. Like, what matters is that my community is there to age.
So, yes and no in a way. I always wanted to kind of be part of it. You know, cosplay or game, I guess. I did a lot of it for just more and more people. I reached out to especially when it's like famous to know or wants to be recognized, the more interesting people I can think of. Yeah. I mean, there kind of is a bit of a hierarchy in costumes, like you were talking about. At the same time, it was just fun to reach out to more people, meet more friends. I mean, all the friends that I have here today with me are ones I met through cosplay.
It did cross my mind, and it was when I was, I think, 15, and that was a solid 5 years ago, because my friend group, we loved Big Wanted Pro.
Yeah.
We watched her videos day in and day out. We wanted to be just like them, especially because people looked up to them. And I think I fell more in love with the fact that like people could ask for help or like come to me to talk than actually getting attention. Not that.
Yeah.
All right, so that was pretty neat. A couple of things that were mentioned in those clips was the fact that, you know, like wanting to be famous, but not being famous for like being popular, but being famous for like having a community to talk to and give advice to, you know, and I think that's an important thing that you vibe with.
It's my favorite. It's my favorite. I have a pretty good community right now, and I love it.
Do you think that like Patreon has like encouraged that community essence of like having people who are a little bit more dedicated?
Patreon really has nothing to do with the community. Most of it is fellow cosplayers in general. Like with PashaCon this year, I saw a huge jump in followers, and I also saw a lot of people approaching me as if I was a famous person, and it felt so good that they were like shaking. They're like, "Oh my god, I follow you and I love your cosplay. Like, can we get a selfie?" And I'm just like, what? Like, sure, you like my work?
You know about me?
So it felt really good to see people shaking in their shoes just trying to come up to you.
Yeah,
Okay.
That right there makes me so, like, it just feels wholesome and humble and
That wasn't
exciting.
your initial reaction. You were
Oh,
like,
no,
it feels really weird
Yeah.
that they're approaching me like this. Like
Like slowly
Like
coming
one
up
of the-
to you, like, oh, is this
Yeah.
okay?
the other cosplayers approaching, like,
Me.
nervous to meet you. Their hands are shaking when they want to take a picture, and she's like, this feels really weird.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah, it feels nice afterwards to have that appreciation that you can retroactively spread out over the 3 months of late nights while you're drinking soda and carving up foam and going,
I'm sitting
God,
on the
what am I
floor,
doing?
Just like,
Why am I
with
doing
my
this?
life?
Why am I
You think
even
back to
doing
that
this?
small cosplayer just being like, I'm terrified. You're like, oh yeah, that's why.
you're like, oh, I really appreciate your appreciation of me. I feel bad and uncomfortable that it affected you to that level, but it's...
Yeah. It was, so, with PashaCon recently, I was approached by people. I don't usually, like, go to the follower account. Like, I don't look at people and I'm like, oh my god, they have so many followers. I am, like, that's not the first place I go to.
actively trying not to do that.
I actually don't do it. I appreciate people for their work. But I did have a couple that were, like, huge in the community that I had no idea who they were until that moment. And I was just like, oh, you like my stuff? Are you kidding me? Like, your stuff is gorgeous. Like, what?
That's the best feeling when you have people who have a very big representation in the community, and also just a lot of respect from the community who's giving that respect back to you. It's
exactly.
Like, that's awesome.
That's when you appreciate other artists and they appreciate your work, it's just a whole other experience, and it inspires you in a way of like, cool, well now I'm gonna try and get better and better every year, and like it's my growth has been, you know, slow, but also like it's starting to pick up speed, and it's like
The interpersonal appreciation
yeah
is a lot more fulfilling than watching your follower count go up.
exactly
Yeah.
exactly. I'm just like, I don't really care for the follower like that I'm getting. It's just like when I go to a con, people see me and they're like, I watched you build that.
Yeah.
You
You're
did
like,
really good.
I thought
And
I
I'm
was
like,
alone. I felt alone.
Yeah, I felt alone the entire time, and I don't know if people actually cared. Like, but you care.
Something
You like me?
So you mentioned follower count, and a cool thing that was kind of mentioned was Mangaloo mentioned specifically how when she started out, she thought like, hey, people who have 1,000 like followers, they're pretty famous. You know, they're awesome. But then she got to 1,000 followers, and she's like, I don't feel famous. Like, that's kind of weird. And then she says like, now I'm at, you know, like almost 30,000 followers, and I still have that same feeling. You know, it's like, when is this moment gonna hit? And when she said that, it just reminded me, and it put it really in perspective of what it's like being quote unquote. I keep saying quote unquote because I'm debating whether that's an actual term or not and where that line is. But what I mean by that is just the fact that like it's almost like becoming adult. When you're becoming adult, it's like I don't feel any different. I don't
Still
feel like an
waiting,
adult.
honestly.
I don't feel like I know more. I don't feel like I'm like confident in my abilities of being an adult. It's like the same thing about being like Cos-Famous. It's like I don't feel any different. I don't feel like I know anymore. I don't feel like
I'm still just a human.
Yeah.
Like,
you still feel like a baby in the community. Like you don't
Yeah.
feel better than anyone else.
I mean, like it's like kind of like the more you get to the point where you thought you were gonna be a certain way, or you'd be more famous, or you'd be more mature as an adult, or something like that. You're just like, I feel even less like I know what I'm doing, honestly.
Yeah.
Because you know how much you don't know.
Yeah, because people will come up to you and be like, "How did you build that?" And then you look at it, and you're just like, "I don't really know."
I just kind of went with it.
I kind of forgot.
Even Jessica Nigri, who would be arguably the most Cos-Famous person out there, in her tutorials where she builds her cosplays, there'll be several moments where she says, I just kind of winged it here.
Yeah,
I didn't really know what I was doing.
Winged it.
This seemed like a good idea, and I went with it, and hey, worked out.
Yeah.
That's so much of
literally
cosplay.
all of us. Like, that's how we go through our entire costumes. We're
And
just like, how am I going to make that stand? I'm just going to use hot glue. We're going to make this work. Like, it's going to happen.
And it bothers me so much because there's so much time that I waste trying to get something right and then messing up and then having to have scrap materials basically, and you're just like, if I could just focus and get it right the first time every time,
Oh my god.
save so much time and money.
Does
Yeah.
anybody get it right the first time?
No, but I wish. I know I could do better. Like be more intentional with some things. Like, okay, this is definitely going to work in a certain way that I think will work, as opposed to like, I think this might work, but I'm pretty sure it won't. So I'll just have to try it out and then try something else.
It's become an accepted practice that she's going to make everything twice. The first time is practice, and the second time is when you get it right.
You only make it twice.
Wow.
My Death Guard actually took that one time because I was very frugal with my materials, and it was a Zach Fisher build. So I was like,
I'm going to push back on that because I watched, and the individual pieces, many of them were 2 or 3 tries. The skulls,
yeah, the skulls were a pain in the ass.
the feet,
I think it was just the skulls.
Yeah, you did something and you went, I
It was
think this
just
will work
skulls.
better a different way, so you took it apart and did it again.
Yeah.
Rather than foam clay using the cast and...
Yeah, no, I think it was just the skulls, because the skulls were the challenging part.
But even when you look at your final build that you've worked so much on, you're like, all right, this work looks pretty good, and then you look at it, and after a while, you're just like, I know I could do that better. Maybe I should remake the entire thing. I'm literally thinking about that too for one thing that I built. I'm just like,
Cosplays are really never finished, to be honest.
Yeah.
Even my most satisfied cosplay that I finished making, I still wasn't 100% satisfied.
Can I interject?
you're never
Yeah.
100%.
So, I did Kill Jaden for BlizzCon, my first BlizzCon, and every year I'm like, I'm gonna redo Kill Jaden. That never happens. I
Redoing
love that,
cosplays is so hard to pull yourself to do because you keep wanting to do new things.
I mean, I've
Yep.
remade one cosplay, and that was because somebody else made a version that was so good that I'm like, I need to be like step up my game for that.
Yeah.
But then there are my other cosplays. Like, I wish I could go back and redo all of them, but I just don't want to take the time. I mean, I don't even really go back and like fix a lot of my cosplays. Sometimes I usually do it like the night at the hotel or something. I'm like, all right, super glue that, and then we're good to go for another con, and then it'll break again.
One of the most humbling experiences for me as a cosplayer is when people start using your cosplays for reference. And I don't think that that's like an insulting thing to do because they're like, here's someone who made this piece, which typically doesn't exist in real life, made it reality. What was some of the stuff that they did to make it happen? And a lot of these people, they aren't copying your stuff; they're taking inspiration, over certain challenges.
Inspiration is great.
Like this one piece was really hard to make. How did you make this one piece of this whole like object?
Or like someone says, hey, I'm kind of looking at yours as reference, and you're just like, why would you do that? I messed up so much on it.
Oh my gosh!
No,
that's a
go
horrible
over here.
idea.
This person over here knows what they're doing.
Let's just go over here.
But then you
This
talk to
person's
that
better.
person and they're like, oh my god, no, it's a nightmare. The thing's a mess. What are you talking about?
It's like, go back to this guy.
The
The
person
person
who
5
you
feet
refer
away.
to.
Yeah.
The 5 foot rule.
Because
yeah.
it's
5-foot rule. I love that rule so much.
it's art
Save
and almost
me.
everybody
Yes.
involved is a perfectionist. So it's
Because
It's never done.
We wanna be
you
canon.
just
Yeah.
you just force yourself to stop at a certain point.
Yep.
And by force yourself to stop, I mean
The con's
the
here.
con's been going on for a couple hours and you're in the hotel and it's time to put it on and go downstairs.
yeah.
Oh,
I
man.
usually don't get to the point where I'm still building a lot of stuff at the con. I usually try and get stuff done like a couple of days before. But yeah, I guess I'm in the minority here then. I don't know, because I know you've worked on stuff at the con.
Oof. I did that once, and one of my biggest regrets is
You
doing
made
that.
like an entire cosplay in like a day or two.
I packed an entire cosplay room in my bag, going to BlizzCon for putting off Kill Jaden.
And it was 4 suitcases and we ended up
Breaking my airbrush.
breaking the
Oh.
airbrush, yep.
Yeah.
And I mean, but there was stuff that needed to get completed that got completed
Mm-hmm.
at the Airbnb at BlizzCon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
But still,
Cosplay
I learned my
circles.
lesson.
but still, she hates the cosplay while she's putting it on. You know, why am I even doing this?
Mm.
Oh yeah, I was so
And then
angry. That
once
was
you
the
get
out
most-
there-
Once you get out there and everybody's like, "This is awesome," and you're like, "It is, it is."
Yeah, it clicks.
Yeah.
And I think that's
like it.
that's a cool thing to mention because I think that's something that never goes away. I haven't talked to any cosplayer who hasn't had that feeling.
I think it's an artist thing in general.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
people hate they criticize their own artwork.
Mm.
It's
And you get nervous
writing.
about it. And
Oh,
yeah.
definitely. I mean, I was building my mace for Brigitte downstairs like the entire time, and I would look at it, I'm just like, this is trash. And then Will, who listened to me, like he would come up and be like, dude, it's looking so good. I'm just like, what are you talking about? This is
Yeah.
garbage.
First thing we
Don't
did,
lie to me. It's just because you were friends.
First thing we did when we saw you at Katsu was like, "Oh, let me see that mace."
Oh
It's like,
yeah.
oh.
I was
That's
asking
pretty
you
awesome.
specific questions. You're like, "I don't know."
I tried some things and it maybe worked.
Oh
Kinda
man.
worked. I went with it.
But yeah, I don't like that sometimes you have to go through having somebody else tell you that it's good to feel that gratification or that satisfaction, because you should be proud of something that you build without having somebody else to tell you. But I guess it also you need like a little nudge from somebody else to actually
Right.
open your eyes and be like, whoa,
Yeah,
look at it as a
yeah.
whole, and you're like, oh my goodness, how did I make this sort of thing?
I often look back at my old work
Oh yeah.
and I'm just like, I went from that to that.
Yeah.
I'm doing good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's only been 2 years.
And that'll
over
continue to
there.
happen.
Yeah.
When you feel you're at the top of your game, you're going to be doing even better later.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think it's you should. It's not so much that you need other people to make you feel good about it, and I don't think you
Yeah.
should feel bad about enjoying that. I mean, almost every good experience that we have in life is based on connection with other people. So if other people are coming up and giving you this positive interaction, it's like, thank you. This is the whole point of all of this.
Right.
We just want to come here, interact, be friends, be positive, share our love for the same properties and characters and the experiences that we had at home alone or with our small group of friends.
We were crying.
We
by
can now
ourselves,
share.
Drinking Mountain Dew.
We can now
Eating
share with
bowls
this
of
big
cereal.
group of people.
Not getting our proper nourishment.
As you do.
Yeah.
Or staying up late, sneaking out of your room so you can watch when they play anime on sci-fi if you're as old as me.
That's right. That
Yeah,
was the thing.
But it's also it's nice knowing that cosplay famous people go through the exact same
Oh,
things.
yeah.
It's like
It's relatable, and it's
That's-
amazing.
yeah,
It's-
I mean that stress level. It's same for people who are just starting out cosplay compared to people who are making it too. I don't know if like does the pressure of of your followers, does that add to that stress at all, or no?
Nope. Half the time, when I do post progress pictures, I get a lot of feedback from that. They're just like, "Oh my god, it's coming out great," and I can't wait. They're what is it called? Progress porn. A lot of people love that. They like time lapses. They love the.
That's true.
Going from
Watching 3 months of work come together. In
That's true. It's
3
very
minutes.
satisfying to watch that
yeah.
happen in such a
Yeah.
short period of
'Cause
time.
you see
It's possible. I can finish this one. Look at that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like I did it.
you can see the imperfections, the different pieces of foam that you put together, and the mistakes you made, the cuts, and all this stuff, and then you see the finished product, and you're like, how did you get from that
Yeah.
mess to this perfection? And it's like you can actually share it along the way.
Painting's one of the best parts, as I'm
Oh,
sure you know.
so
'cause
satisfying. You're just like,
Oh,
this is
yeah.
all I have to do.
it all. That's when it
Just
really
sit
starts to
there
come
and you're
together
like,
because
yeah.
you know, especially with the foam, you have like mishmash like colors and all these like weird like inconsistencies,
and then
and
go
then
from,
you
like,
just
one
go
color,
to put the
and then you
primer and
add
paint,
two and
and then
three,
it's
and you're just
like,
like-
oh, it looks so good now. Now that it's all painted.
You don't see like the hot glue like fill in spots.
Oh,
where-
yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Oof, that's too relatable.
Yep,
Yeah.
and then you just dremel it all away as you're crying inside.
But I think it was going back to, I think it was you or somebody was saying, was like, going from something that looks completely plain, like foam or like a PVC pipe, to what you actually built. Like I remember the first day that I got my PVC pipe for my prop, I was walking back home with it from like downtown, and somebody I knew came up to me, he's like, well, what are you making? I'm like, I'm making a mace. And he's like, how? It's just like just a PVC pipe. And I'm like, I don't know, but I'm gonna do it. So yeah, that's all I got.
I love that there's no clarity afterwards.
Yeah.
And we're like, how'd you do that? You're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Still don't know. It sort of
I just
happened.
blacked out and then it happened.
I
Like, it
cried a lot,
disappeared.
and then I realized I wasn't going to do anything, so I worked really hard, but I think I blacked that part out of my mind.
But
Yeah.
you're also still seeing like the PVC and the crack that you covered up with wood glue and
Yeah.
the layered foam and stuff. But all anybody else sees is the completed, fantastic prop. And
Yeah.
they're just like, that's awesome. And you're like, are you sure? I just see a bunch of parts from the hardware store.
It's true.
Because
You
yeah.
see it because you built it and you're like, I see my imperfections.
Well, also, like, when you're building it, I don't know if you guys do this, but for me, if I'm building something, I need to look at it in sections, not as a whole, just so I can actually get it done. So I'm like, all right, I see the pommel, I see the handle, I see, like, the edge over here. Like, it's sometimes really difficult to see the big picture because you're so close working on the tiny things. So
Yeah.
everyone else sees, like, the entire thing as opposed to, like, oh, there's this section, then there's this section, and there's this section.
Yep. Right.
Go ahead.
I think that the most clear way to describe what it's like to gain fame or notoriety was already stated, like you said. You don't find past milestones in your life and remember when you thought you'd feel different and realize that once you pass that milestone, you don't feel any different. When you're 16 thinking like, oh man, what's it going to be like to be 18 or 21 or you can't imagine beyond 30 because that's clearly the end of life.
Yeah, it's like, crap, go back.
Damn it.
Right.
Come on, Ben.
But then you keep crossing those lines and realizing like, oh, I'm still the exact same person and I don't feel different at all. Then you get into the psychological issue of externalities changing you internally. There aren't many experiences or things that are going to happen to you or thresholds that you're going to cross where you're suddenly like forced to change from the inside.
Yeah.
So
like having having really big things in life that are going to change you, like thinking, oh, once I turn this age, then like my entire mindset is going to change, like because I'm that age, not because of like the ongoing process of growing up or growing as a cosplayer.
Yeah, if you win the lottery, like you're still just going to do you on a larger scale. You're not suddenly going to become some business-minded entrepreneur because you already would have been that person. You're just going to have a really big screen to watch your anime trash on.
Yeah. I mean, like thinking about like TV shows where somebody's like, oh man, I'm such a child, I need to grow up, and then they come next day, they're like, I have a suit, a suitcase, all that stuff, and you're like, that's not going to work.
The montage.
We know who you are. Yeah, basically.
The ridiculous montage where they're suddenly a different person.
Yeah.
Or
like going to the store and buying all the alcohol to show how much of an adult they are. They're like, no, don't try.
Something that's was a very constant theme when I was interviewing these cosplayers was it wasn't as much of a change as it was a trade-off. It was different pros for different cons as they were progressing up this theoretical ladder of fame. And some of the good things that they gained was like, hey, a community, someone I can, people that I can reach out to and a platform to reach out to people, which is really cool. And just the amount of friends that you make through it. Those were some of the biggest highlights from that. Some of the cons that were gained, though, was there's a lot more expectations. A lot of the stuff, it's a lot easier to do just for yourself when you're starting out. But now when you have a following, now it's almost like you set a bar from yourself, where now you're expected to continually get better and not take any steps back,
And I think that can kind of be a good thing. It can be sort of a motivation to actually get the thing done, as opposed to just being like, I'll do it on my own time. Like if you told somebody, oh, I'm going to cosplay this, and you told several other people, they're like, all right, all right, we're waiting now. It's like, well, I told people, so I have to do it now.
all the time.
Yeah.
I'm very bad at that.
Some of the other things.
Commitment.
Yeah.
Some of the other things that were mentioned, kind of alongside of having lots of friends and community, is also trying to identify of those friends which are your true friends. You have a lot of people who want to be with you because you're famous and they want to follow in your footsteps. Some of them like you for your community, and some of you like you for your personality. And sometimes it's really hard to tell the difference. You know, some people hide it better than others. They also find it hard to balance friends sometimes because now they have so many friends. Like, I definitely don't consider myself famous, but I definitely have a lot of friends within the cosplay community. KatsuCon, I literally know, I wouldn't say they're all friends, but I know hundreds of people at KatsuCon. And I want, just because, you know, they've been a part of my cosplay career in one way or another, I want to, like, say hi to them at least once, you know. And some people, especially my friends, who I definitely have dozens of at KatsuCon, I want to spend, like, I want to have, like, a memorable moment with them, and it's almost impossible to do that. And it's kind of stressful because, you know, you don't want to let your friends down, you know, and KatsuCon is like an extreme example, but it is one of those cases that kind of puts that in perspective, how many people in your life, and if you're a person who really values your friends, what a almost responsibility that is.
That's why group cosplays with your friends is such a good idea.
But also, people that are your friends who go to KatsuCon will be understanding.
It's true.
Because
True. That is one way to find out your true friends.
Other cosplayers. Typically, yeah. But then, just a couple points to throw on the stuff that you were saying. It also, having to tell who the other people, people's genuine motives when they're seeking to become friends with you after you have the weird, like I said, destructive gift of fame, where it's like, okay, you question their motivations. But you also are stuck questioning everybody's motivations. So it's a two-part thing. You do question them, but you're also questioning a lot of genuine people because you can't help the fact that you're like, do you actually like me?
What do you want?
Or do you think I possess some sort of magic that's going to fix the things in you that you don't like?
Yeah.
Or like when someone's like, hey, I want to hang out with you at the con, you're just like, why?
Yeah.
I mean, I've always been of the mentality like that. I'd just be like, somebody tries to do something nice for me, and I just be like, why do you want to do that? What, did you poison that food or that donut? What did you do? What are you trying to get from me?
What do you want from me?
Yeah, so like I have more of a negative like sort of outlook on that sort of thing, which isn't a good idea, but it's also sort of caution for like meeting new people. I mean, it's awesome meeting new people at cons. Like it's actually one of the best parts, honestly.
That's my favorite.
But at the same time, you kind of have to be on the lookout for like the bad eggs in the people who might be meeting you. Just be like, okay, you have to like look for a certain vibe or see what they're trying to do with you, basically.
You can still vibe with them. The thing is just you have to, you know, watch yourself, be cautious, and you can still be polite and kind, but you set boundaries for yourself, you know?
You I won't name names, but you have some connections with some like huge like people within the community who have some very unique challenges to deal with. Rather, like, not to put people in tears, but we're talking people with over 100,000 like followers, and these people, these like very small percentage of cosplayers that a lot of people aspire to be, have very specific challenges that makes it very hard for them to do what they do. Kind of a well-known fact, and this isn't revealing anything new. But Jessica Nigri, she has like 2 cons where she tries to be a normal cosplayer, and that's KatsuCon, that's Anime Expo, I believe, where she isn't there for work, she's there to be a cosplayer, but she has to almost hide herself the majority of the weekend because everywhere she goes, because she's so well known, she's being bombarded by people, and that's all well and good, except for the fact that you're just... Anyone, even me, who's an extrovert, is going to be overwhelmed when you have like 100 people surrounding you. Like that's just it's a lot.
She handles it so well.
She does such a good job, and she's one of the best example. And I think one of the reasons why she deserves to be as popular as she is because she's such a genuine human being.
But at the same time, like I'll see Jessica Nigri at KatsuCon. She'll have like this whole group of people, and it looks like it's very difficult. And even though she's doing a great job, I've kind of gotten into the mindset like, yeah, I've met her a couple times. She seems pretty cool, but I don't see her as like, oh, I need to be best friends with this person. I don't want to join that crowd of constantly following her around, being like, hey, you're Jessica Nigri, I need to be your best friend, sort of thing. Yeah. I'm just like, yeah, I see her from a distance. So cool. And then
something that we talked pretty in depth in our first episode of the first season, in talking about cosplay elitism, is that a lot of people tend to tend to view these like celebrities within cosplay as not normal cosplayers. These are normal people, normal cosplayers that just have a really big following around them, and they still deserve to be treated and respected like normal people.
We had the conversation of how, you know, people that are surrounded constantly, having their battery drained consistently, and they can't have what we have, where we're just hanging out on the side with just us two, having a normal conversation, not being, there's no one waiting to be given attention, you know, like, and they can't have that. And as cosplayers, we need to understand that, like, at the end of the day, after cosplaying all day long, after saying hi and being, you know, talked to by a lot of people about our cosplay and stuff like that, it gets draining and tiring. And when you're just trying to enjoy time with your friends, you want that time. Yeah. Not being like...
That's something that you can't go back to.
No.
There's a very linear path. Once you have that new lifestyle, you can't return it. You know?
That's what I mean. That's why, like, she handles her community so well, and she's very just always inviting. Just always, like, me personally, I get a little drained, and I'm like, I just want to go back to the room and just relax. And
that's when I hop in.
Yeah.
I mean, I usually...
He takes over.
Even if I'm just wearing the cosplay and I'm not hanging out or talking to anybody, I get drained. Yeah. Just because I don't like being in large groups or large crowds or just having to stand in an uncomfortable thing. But then talking with people, like, it's enjoyable, but I still get drained, so I need to take a break. But just even imagining having an entire group of people who are surrounding you on a regular basis is just like... I'd probably just start crying on the floor. Just like curl up into a ball and be like, please stop, go away.
I can, like, that's the thing is, like, I can adapt and handle things and I will do it. But also, like, when I'm done, I'm done. Like, all right.
Which it is. Attention and energy is a measurable resource.
Yes.
Your willpower is genuinely the calories being burned in your brain, in your prefrontal cortex, to allow you to be able to continue to drive yourself through these interactions. And I think in general, as a community, all of us are a bit more... We have a problem with shallow interaction. Almost none of us can do small talk.
Oh, crap, no.
We instantly need to have deep, intense conversations. Our passions flow out. That's what makes us nerds. Somebody mentions a movie and somebody else like hits the table and goes, let's talk about it. Here's my deep feelings about these specific things.
Yes.
You want to take this to the podcast? Yeah, let's go.
Exactly. So we can't have... meaningless, empty interactions.
Yeah.
So it does drain our reserves faster than other people. And the resilience of the people with the enormous followings to manage everybody like that is astounding. That's a superpower that I can't
highly
fathom.
respected.
And still watching a lot of people be off-put because all they can do with you is give you a 30 to 60 second interaction because there's 30 people waiting behind you or encircling them, which you also have to keep in mind that you're going to have a natural animalistic reaction to the feeling of being encircled in a group that is all moving in on you and wants something from you. Yeah. There's a palpable need coming from the group that thinks that you have some magic that makes you more fulfilled and powerful. Yeah. And so they're waiting to take some of it. Your words inherently gain more profundity. People are going to imbue everything that you do and say with more meaning than is actually there. So once you get to that level, you lose the ability to interact with anybody or stay on the floor very long without becoming completely drained. And we've been warned as she grows that you've really got to enjoy where you're at right now.
Appreciate where you're at and, you know, like really interact with people, but also like, you know, have some respect for yourself and, you know.
All of you guys are already you're already at the level of like you want to be able to see all your friends, and you feel bad that you can't give them the amount of time that you
already
want
losing
to.
that as we speak.
Yeah, exactly. And you're walking away from a friend, and you're apologizing of like, hey, I'm sorry we only got to catch up briefly. I've got to go see some other friends. I don't think they're better than you. I don't rate my friends on a hierarchical scale, but
It's just,
I'm sorry, I got to go. I love you.
Sometimes like at Katsucon, you know, I have this all the time where you see people just at bad times. Like you're on your way to a shoot, or there's like a group
Big
thing.
con.
Yeah.
It's
It's
huge.
such a big con,
and there's
yeah.
so many friends too. And I want to like go back to what you were saying about how
Cos-Con.
shallow like interactions with people. Like somebody comes to you and they're like, "Oh, I like your cosplay," and then they just stand there. It's like, do I need to say something? I like
I
it.
said thank you. Like, thank you.
Yeah,
so
Because then you're spending more energy
just
to
like-
be like, oh, let me carry your end of this conversation because I
Right.
don't want you.
I get
You
so awkward.
you were probably
Yeah.
nervous or anxious to come up and speak to me because of whatever small amount of fame I have.
But now I'm
Relative
also
to you.
awkward of trying to
it's
figure
like-
out how to
Yeah.
read you as a person.
Why are you
I
giving me
some
these
random
vibes?
question? I'm just like, so we're at a con. How's your con going? Like,
Yeah.
Which, and I've talked to people who have come up to me and genuinely said, I am an awkward person. I have issues with social anxiety and interpersonal interaction. They didn't say it that cleanly. I cleaned it up for them. But they were looking for advice, and I was saying the best thing that you can do to all of these people is understand how split their time is. And just go up, find something that you would like to compliment that's genuine, that isn't an open-ended need. Just be like, hey, I really like what you did there. I just want to say thank you for this previous thing or this current thing or whatever. And
have a good con.
and just wanted to interact and say hello. So it's really great. You're an inspiration. Keep doing your thing and have a great con. I'll see you later. And disengage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when people come up to you and actually ask you, if anybody comes up to a cosplayer and asks you, hey, how, like, what'd you do with this specific thing? We want to talk all about how we did it. It's like, all right, paint, priming, the cutting all of it, crying, all of it. It's just, we want to tell you about our pain and struggles and love for the thing.
Important note I want to make here is that we've been talking a lot about the cons of being Cos-Famous, and I'm not trying to put it down as a very bad lifestyle, but I think that we all know the pros of being famous, so I'm giving a very disproportionate amount of time to talk about the cons because that's the stuff that we either don't know about or just ignore because we want all the pros. But I think that it's important to know, find who you are as a person and find what makes you tick as a cosplayer and what you get out of it and realize, is this something that I should be striving for, you know? Some people may not be equipped to deal with people interactions all the time. I would recommend at least not worrying about your following, doing your own thing. You can do the same steps, and if it happens, it happens, but don't hold yourself to striving to be
don't do
Cos-Famous.
standards. Just be happy, enjoy what you're doing, and that's all.
Yeah, I think I've gotten to the point with cosplay that it's if somebody follows my account, awesome. I don't feel like the need to have to give back to the community because I don't feel like I am like that kind of cosplayer per se. Like I say, hey, I appreciate you guys for liking all my stuff, but I'm building stuff for me. I want to do cosplays that I have fun in, basically. I don't want to be like, okay, I have to build this because people like this. I mean, I might post pictures that I notice people like more, but at the same time, just like, you know,
It's
I
not
want
your priority, you
I
know?
want to have fun at the con, and having fun for me is being comfortable, having something that's kind of cool. Maybe I'll have a big cosplay and enjoy that for a little while, but also just, you know, walking around, meeting new people, like going up to other cosplayers and being like all googly eye over their cosplays, basically.
Yeah, that's like the hardest things. I always miss a lot of cosplays because I'm always like going to shoots. You guys understand, like when you're on the floor, you're being dragged to shoots and stuff like that. Like that's why videography is like my savior because they capture all the stuff that I miss, and I'm like, that costume was there. What? I didn't even get to see it. And then I'll follow the cosplayer and I'll send him a message and be like, I appreciate this cosplay. You did good.
I rarely do actual photo shoots, so I can't relate to as much. I'm mostly just walking, but it all sounds very stressful.
Well, if you have something extravagant, you
Yeah.
get
Oh, yeah.
stopped every
Yeah.
like 30 feet for 6 pictures or
Well,
so.
like there was that picture of like when you're in con mode, you're in cosplay, everything's a blur. Like
Yeah.
it literally is a
It's like,
blur.
I saw you and you didn't say hi. This was me the entire time.
I can't see things.
That's why as a handler, I'm usually catching her. I'm watching the people who are like doing this and being like,
person saying hi right to your left.
Well, no, and the people who are scared to say hi but really want to, and I don't want them to have a bad experience, so I'm just like, hey, do you want a picture? Great, come on over. Why don't you take a picture with
Once they got the
with her?
invite,
I'll
they're
take
just
the-
like, all right, cool.
Because with that, they don't have to interact right away with the person they want to take a picture with. It's someone who's with them who isn't in like a extravagant thing. I did that last year at KatsuCon. I was being a con mom sort of like handler basically for a couple of my friends, and I was like,
I con mom like
it
crazy.
was oh my goodness, being a con mom and being a handler is actually a lot of fun, and it's sort of gratifying in your own way, because you're like, hey, I'm helping this person because they are a total wreck right now. And it feels good to be like, you know what, somebody, you need to fall back on somebody, I got you, don't worry, I've got your water, I've got your cards, I'll hand them out, I'll point at other people and be like, hey, you want to take a picture of this person, I can get you a picture with this person.
Yeah, and I mean, cosplayers are doing performance art. They're performing art.
Yeah.
So, yes, if you have the benefit, this sounds like I'm clapping myself on the back. If you have the benefit of a handler or a friend who can help
Great
you
job.
out,
Yeah.
it is really helpful for somebody else to be guiding and allowing you to concentrate on performing your art, showing off the thing that you
Handlers are
have
underappreciated.
months and months into.
See,
I wasn't trying to.
I'm kind of like a partial handler for myself, just because when you're a cosplayer, a lot of the time you want to just have your cosplay and that's it. Don't have to worry about water or like cards or carrying anything around. And if you have someone who actually has a backpack with all the stuff that you need, that is a godsend. But for me, I'm just going to carry a trash bag around with my cosplay, and people want to take a picture, just drop it off, get in a pose, pick it back up, and just keep walking. So it's kind of funny, because my friends, they'll just be like, oh my goodness, here you are with your water, staying hydrated and everything. I'm like, it's not stupid. Being smart. Which is kind of redundant, but yeah.
Then there's people like Savage who will create.
Oh my god.
Yes.
Who will create little compartments all over their perfect cosplay that are open and closed by magnets, where he's like, yeah, here's my wallet, here's my phone, here's my water. You're just like, dude, stop it. I felt good about my thing until
He's got
I saw this.
he doesn't actually, but he's got
When
like a
you-
cup holder that just pops out.
Yeah, exactly.
You push of a button.
When you add practicality to your cosplay, that's a whole nother level.
It's a
Oh my
weird
God.
flex where
Yeah.
you're just like, this is barely staying together, and yours, you could go hiking with this, and it
Yeah.
would be more functional than my hiking gear.
I mean, he made space in his Alphonse cosplay for like a water backpack, basically, like the so water. I think it's water backpack, but yeah, I'm
Camel
just like
pack?
something like that. And he's like, I'm gonna be in this all day, and I don't want to be having to hold like a water bottle or trying to get it to me, so just suck on a straw, and then you're good. And you're just like, I want to have that so bad, because if it works with your cosplay, then that's like the perfect thing for you, because hydration is like one of the leading problems with cosplaying a lot of the times. You're just like, yeah, I'm really not doing well.
That and like going to the bathroom in full armor.
Oh, yeah.
Taking it back here, though, I think...
Sorry.
No, it's all good. Hydration is
Bathroom
important,
talk.
people. Don't ever forget. Also,
Stay hydrated.
yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, so if you are looking up to people who you aspire to be like in cosplayers, I asked the people that we interviewed, what was their main advice as someone who is striving to be following in their footsteps, as people that may not consider themselves cos-famous, but several other people would disagree and call them famous. And I think that should be recognized as people look up to you. What kind of advice do you have to give back to them as someone who wants to follow in your footsteps? And let's see what they had to say in response to that.
What would you have to say for a cosplayer who's just starting out, who looks up to you as someone who, in their eyes, whether it's in your eyes or not, is cos-famous and really looks up to you? What would you say to them about starting in cosplay?
My best advice is don't be afraid to be new, because everybody has to be new at some time. If it's your first time working with the sewing machine, just do it. Just start. I know starting can be the hardest part, but as soon as you get past that and just work at it, you can only get better from there.
Absolutely.
So, don't be scared. And plus the community's huge. So, if you have questions, there are tutorials out there. There are other cosplayers who are to help you. Please message me. I will help you. First off, I would tell them to definitely not look up to me. Definitely, do as I say and not as I do. Yeah, I'm terrible because I'm always like, you should live your best life, but I'm there cramming all of my homework that I need on to make sure that I'm not running late. It's not the best lifestyle, but definitely some great advice. I think I would tell every cosplayer.
So the biggest mistakes I ever made in cosplay were bad timing. If you can sit there and say, it's going to take me a week to do it, it's going to take 3. Because you're going to fail, it's going to cost you more money, it's going to break, it's going to take 100 tries before you finally learn. So be ready for trial and error.
I think it's funny that right there, Starsplat talked about how it's like, well, first off, I think I'm a terrible example. Don't follow me. We're just kind of touching about how it's just like,
You have me as a role model? No,
Yeah.
no, don't do that.
She was like, do as I say, not as I do.
It's bad, but it's kind of true.
It's like you're just talking about. It's like, I would have done this so many different ways. So it's like you can give better advice than your execution because of all the stuff that you've learned from it.
Because
So-
when people see you and your accomplishments, that's all they see. They're just like, oh man, they did it absolutely perfect. They got on the first try. You're just like, no,
it's not true.
It is very, very hard, and you mess up so much.
Yes.
A couple of good other points that was made was planning. Always very important. You can save yourself so many times by I'm sure the times that you haven't had to do it 3 or 4 times over is because you took the extra time to plan ahead of time.
I overthink a lot.
Yeah. And related to time, also time management.
Yes.
Full Health Cosplay specifically said if you think it's going to take you a week, it's going to take you 3 weeks, no matter how hard you try. So.
I'm trying to get better.
Yeah. So yeah, everything's going to take longer than you expect. That's why Con Crunch exists.
Yeah.
Evidence of that. And
Speaking of Manglu, she literally cosplayed Con Crunch.
it's true.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
I saw that, yeah.
So
Oh,
good.
God,
So
her-
good. And speaking of Mangalo, she said specifically, just start. A lot of people are really intimidated
Literally
to
just
just
do
get
it.
into cosplay or do this next big thing that you have in
YouTube.
mind. Yeah.
That's how I learned. YouTube.
As Shia LaBeouf says, just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Literally what she's asking. Just do it. Yeah,
And
you gotta start somewhere. Everybody
Yeah.
starts somewhere. Everybody that you looked up to, they started from somewhere.
yeah.
Yep.
And
You know?
usually, for starting cosplay, for me, I need to have some sort of incentive at the beginning to be like, okay, well, I did this, then I have to do this. So sometimes it's not starting a build, but more like, okay, starting to buy the pieces that I'm going to have for it. And you're like, oh, well, I have this stuff, then I have to finish this.
Do one little prop.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like last year, I made a Genos cosplay for One Punch Man, and I'm like, okay, I bought the wig, I bought the shirt.
The wig is the first.
Yeah, the wig is like, okay, you got the wig. You're gonna look stupid with just the wigs.
Yeah.
You maybe,
Here,
I don't
here,
know.
check them out if
So-
you want really good wigs.
It's like that's all you got. So you got to keep going.
Product placement.
You've done too
Hashtag is
far.
sponsored.
You can't stop now, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
It's kind of like that for me. I'll get the wig and then I'll start a piece of armor and then I'm like, I'll get in this mode. Procrastination is the worst. My worst enemy.
I am very good at procrastination. Procrastination.
We're pros at procrastination.
Hey, I put the pro in procrastination.
Yes.
That exists in almost every industry, though. The
Yeah.
advice in writing, making music, any intangible art form to a certain extent is just start and try. And failing is good because then you get used to the feeling and you're like, oh, I was terrified of this.
Yeah.
But it's not a big deal. It's over and I have something to show for it.
Yep.
I have knowledge, I have experience, and those pieces look terrible, but that piece looks fantastic. I'm going to redo those and keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And looking at the pieces that you did terrible, you're like, okay, I know what's terrible about that. So don't do that, but take the good parts of it. Okay, so this worked, but not all of this. So how can I do it differently? So you have a reference for what's bad and some of the good. Okay, a little bit better next time, a little bit better next time. I had that so many times with prop builds, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
it's hard because it's demoralizing. Basically, you're like, oh man, I feel so bummed that I didn't get it on the first try, and I don't understand it. But then
Because you think everybody else gets it on the first try?
yeah, exactly.
They don't?
Yeah,
Yeah,
No
they
one
don't.
ever
No,
does.
and you
does.
keep forgetting that
Yeah.
too. You're just like everyone else is able to do such amazing things, and here I am just trying, not even figuring out a logical way to do something. You're just blindly going
going
about
with
it.
and then you're like,
hopefully something good will come from it.
And it's a weird skill to have to develop, but accept compliments. Don't just redirect and demur and be like, oh, it's not that great. Your thing is great. Don't do that. Allow them to compliment you and you to believe in yourself and go, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And that's it. Don't
so
qualify
bad about
it.
that.
Don't redirect. Just say, thank you for saying that this is good. I worked hard on it.
Yeah. Because when it comes down to it, if you're looking to gain a following, the biggest thing that you can do is love what you do. You know, let that be the centerpiece. You know, be a genuine person and just, you know, put your head down and do your own thing, you know, and people will follow. You know, if you do a proper job of putting yourself out there and loving what you do, it's only going to be natural for you to have a following sometime in the future. And I think like so many people equate to being like Cos-Famous as a certain feeling, but I don't think that feeling exists. And I think that really the only way to determine who someone is, if someone is Cos-Famous, is based off of what people think of them outside. I think that there's nothing you can tell yourself that, hey, I'm famous. Because even Jessica Negri, I don't believe, considers herself famous. She always has people that she points to, regardless of follower count or numbers or status. What about this person? What about this person? Like, these people are great. She doesn't have that mindset. And if anyone has the right to call herself famous within the cosplay community, I believe she has the highest numbers. So...
And also, I think that what's important is to remember that you have to give yourself a break a lot of the time, because if you're trying to get something done in just one time span, you're gonna burn out. And just
burnout is real.
Don't be so hard on yourself. I might try and be like, okay, I have 8 hours in a day to work on cosplay. I'm not gonna work the entire 8 hours because I'm just gonna keep getting more aggravated. And you just have to be okay, I have this time that I'll just take a little bit of a break. Maybe I'll go and do something else and just not be venting over my entire thing, because it's just going to get worse. You just have to relax.
That's another one of those universal personality quirks that a lot of us in this community will have, of hyper-focusing and perseverating into this thing where you're just like, this is all that matters. If this is not perfect, nobody will like me. And also, it's difficult to start because I think one of the other universal personality quirks is none of us want to do anything that we're not already good at, so we're going to research how to do it for a month before we even try to tape two things together. We're just like, no, I can't play a new game until I've read all of the lore and watched every video and gone through.
I got to the point where I bought a couple of cosplay books to like understand what was going on, but it's also really hard just to read instructions for a book. So you're like, oh, I kind of know this, so I haven't I know there's a lot of information that will help me, but you just got to start sometimes and just read it during the time.
I learn by doing. That's my way of learning, and reading stuff, it doesn't compute.
No, it doesn't.
Which we bought all of
Kamui's books.
Is it Kamui or Kamui?
It's Kamui.
I got Bill Duran's books, so again, it's
they're
really
good.
helpful.
They're good.
They're really good. They help a lot of people.
You need these things as references, but you also need to be doing, not just observing.
Just learning.
And it's
trial and error is so undervalued. You need to fail. I'm sorry, you need to fail before you can become good.
Because then you realize failure isn't scary.
For the most part, I haven't worked a lot with people who have looked at my stuff and been like, okay, this is something that you can do differently. Like, I haven't worked next to someone else with building my thing that much, so a lot of the times I just have to rely on myself or for references from other people, or just looking at something as much as I can and being like, okay, I kind of understand this. So it's so weird to get to the point where I might have somebody who has more experience who will actually be like, hey, this will help, and this will help, and this will help. I went to a workshop, and one of my friends, he was like, hey, this is how you do this. And it was so bizarre having somebody help me with the cosplay. I'm like, I'm not used to this, really. It's kind of nice. It makes it so much easier.
I would love, that's actually something that I've wanted to do, was to work with another person and create something, which Sav and I have been talking about doing a collab together.
That would be awesome.
A lot of cosplayers talk to everybody all the time about, we're definitely going to collab, and then you make these plans, and then these big group cosplays. And
no, we're talking about building something together for someone else. But another thing is when I focus on a cosplay that I want to build, I look at it as the armor pieces are shapes.
Yeah.
That's how I go about it.
Reminds me of drawing. you know?
Yeah, like before cosplay and stuff like that, when I was younger, I was an artist. I like to draw and sketch stuff. So bringing that aspect into building armor has really helped huge. And just looking at it and getting that perspective of just okay, this is just shapes. All I gotta do is fit these shapes on my body and puzzle piece them together, and then I got a product.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, breaking it down to its component parts, so
Right.
it doesn't seem like this, impossible
Yes.
task. It's just there's just little things. You
Looking
just
at-
do one little thing at a time, break it down,
Yeah.
and keep going.
Looking at the big picture is what usually keeps people from starting.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the
They're
daunting
oh my
part,
God,
looking at
there's
everything.
so much armor pieces. And
But I'm glad that you said looking at stuff, looking at the shapes, because I have never been very artistic. I don't know how to draw. I don't know how to measure things. I'm terrible at math and that sort of thing. But getting into cosplay, I was thinking, okay, I'll just keep getting better every time I build something. And I want to get to the point where I build things and I can tell other people who are just I'm not good at any of this stuff. I don't know how to draw. I don't know how to, fit things together. I'm just hey, I was there too. I still don't know how to do that, but I still did it. I was I'm just gonna keep doing it. I don't want to be I don't think I'm cosplay famous material, so to speak, but I think I can help inspire people to do something if they feel kind of depressed, that they feel like they're not capable, basically.
Well, we all have pretty loud negative voices in our heads, so
Yeah.
they might look at her and be like, "Oh, you were an artist as a child. You're naturally talented. You know how to draw."
It's,
All of that. So it is absolutely inspirational for someone to say, "I possess no measurable skills,
yeah,
and I still do it."
Yep.
Yeah.
exactly.
By
It's-
my own assessment, I don't think I'm very good at any of this stuff,
Yeah.
but look, I did it.
Yeah.
I just
Everything.
and your work is great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to
Thank
say
you.
I'm
that being
surprised
an
that you
artist
think that you don't.
doesn't make you good at cosplay.
No.
I just want to.
There's so many skills involved with cosplay that I don't think there's any sort of talent that makes you a good cosplayer. I think
No,
there's things that help you in
exactly.
certain aspects of cosplay.
Yeah.
There's no single talent that makes you good at cosplay.
Yes.
And-
Agreed.
It's a new skill that you have to learn for anybody.
And you're talking about people trying to acquire a following, gain whatever, grow.
Yep.
Don't do it. I can't think of any good reason. Fame for fame's sake, followers just to have followers. It's not going to. It's not going to create anything good other than opportunity
Yeah.
for more connection and more interaction and things that you can do. But
Right.
there's no fulfillment inherent in just fame.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Fame for
Cosplay-
fame's sake is nothing at all.
Exactly. 100%.
Do it
It's
because
just
you love
never anyone who is or was famous within cosplay is never was about being famous. It was about the
no.
cosplay in the community.
Even if you're trying to translate that into, look, I can see a realistic representation, a qualification of these amount of people like me. They clicked like, they follow,
Yeah.
I feel fulfilled by that. You don't. It's an empty number. You love to meet people that are like, hey, I follow you, and you're like, oh, then it feels real.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, oh, cool, let's talk. But
Yep.
just seeing the number,
Yeah.
It's just his number.
Yeah.
It's that's all it is. And
Yep.
I think that even for people who are more negative, if they're like, oh, I feel like I'm not capable of doing all this stuff, so I feel like I'm basically useless. Another a mindset that helps, even if you're negative, you could be like, okay, useless as I might be, I'm still gonna try and at least do something like this. And when you get to at least something, then you can do at least something more, and then a little more, and then you'll progress so much.
you also realize that you were never useless. You're
Exactly.
like,
Yeah.
I assessed myself as having no skills, yet
Yeah.
I did this, so clearly I do have skills, or I built them, or I was measuring by the wrong metric. It's,
I built my own skills, basically.
Yep.
Yep.
And it all happens with just starting.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing.
Exactly.
And the thing is that not only just starting, but when you start and you have done that, you're already winning in the eyes of cosplay. It's
Yes.
you are being a successful cosplayer the moment you start. There's no validation that you can get that makes you a cosplayer. As soon as you start, you are a cosplayer. There's nothing that you need to do to validate yourself as one.
the validation and fulfillment typically is when you're actually there, and somebody else in a cosplay sees you, or somebody else from that fandom sees you, or your friend sees you, and somebody comes up and goes, yes, thank you, awesome.
Yeah.
Like I do when I see people cosplaying What We Do in the Shadows.
Nice.
Yes.
But yeah,
I
So
do-
from
I
sorry.
do want to say that, like, having followers isn't necessarily a negative or positive.
Yeah, like I said, different pros for different cons. You know, it's
Exactly.
just a different situation. I don't think being famous makes your cosplay career infinitely better. You know, it just
Exactly.
makes it different.
It's different. Also, like, when you have people that are willing to follow you for you,
Mm-hmm.
that is, in a way, a positive thing, because they're looking at your work and they're appreciating it and stuff like that. But again, that's not where you get your validation.
No.
You get your validation from your creativeness, and these people are there because they like you, and that's what,
For sure.
you know.
And,
Also- go.
sorry.
No,
Okay. And going into, I think about people who the stuff does come easily to them. Like they're able to get stuff done much more quickly, or it's not as difficult in building things. The people who are like in a grueling situation where they have to build something, they're just trying as hard as they can. I feel like that, like not to put down the people who it comes easy to, I feel like it's really maybe more satisfying for the person who had to go through basically hell to build what they did.
Yes. Yep.
And like that definitely shows. It's like all the pain, labor, sweat, tears, all of it. It just it all accumulates to I got out of this little hell that I made for myself, you know?
the more struggle, the more satisfaction. I think
Exactly.
there's also, it's a very healthy thing to do to don't slam your head against a wall of a particular thing if that's not your thing. You,
Yeah.
you
Yes.
may be a foam crafter, you may not be a tailor or a seamstress.
May not be good at makeup.
Hello.
Like myself.
Yeah.
You may not be good at makeup, you may be really good at painting and weathering. You find your strengths by trying everything, and you can struggle with the stuff that you're not good at, and yes, more struggle, of course, is going to inherently have more satisfaction once you finally complete it. But
Right.
Yes.
if you have to work so much harder at one aspect and you find you have more aptitude in another, follow that. Let
Yeah.
that grow. You don't have to be perfect at everything. If you find something that you're comfortable with, that you're good at, flourish there.
And more like you're
Allow
enjoying-
yourself to be bad at something.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
I'm not good at seamstress. I will never make a full-on seamstress dress because that's not where I shine. I want to learn it.
But it's never going to be your dominant part of your cosplay.
I
you know?
appreciate, like, I have a whole appreciation for someone who does a seamstress work, because I'm just like, how did you do that? And they're just like, in my shoes, when people ask me about my armor, I'm like, oh, I just did it, you know? But
Yeah.
I have to also
Accept
keep
the
in
weakest
mind.
part of your skill set.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like,
I mean, I feel the same way. I don't think of myself as someone who would want to go out of their way to make something that's very extravagant with fabric, basically. It's not something that resonates with me as much. Like, it would be awesome to be able to do that and have those skills, but it's not the thing that grabs my attention as much. I find prop builds, armor builds, those are the things that I really enjoy. And while I can definitely appreciate at cons where people are wearing like huge, amazing dresses that have like extremely detailed. Yeah, exactly. All like that.
the beading,
All that stuff.
like,
I have so many friends who've done that.
yeah.
But my eyes are usually drawn to like big armor builds. That's usually it's just what gets me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's my thing.
Well, with that, thanks for joining us. Make sure that you check out the interviews of the cosplayers, and most importantly, make sure you follow them. Follow them at Labanac on Instagram, at Full Health Cosplay, and at Starsplat. Don't forget to follow our other friends here. And make sure that you subscribe to all of our stuff online, whether it be on the podcast forums, which you can find anywhere that you find music, on YouTube, or just, following our social media from Facebook to Instagram to wherever you find our stuff. And you can also check out all of our content on geekkind.tv. Thank you again to our sponsor, Hero Hair, for taking the time to work with us and all the things that we do, and for obviously supporting us. Make sure you check them out at herohair.com. And thanks for joining us, guys.